It's pretty wild when a conflict happening thousands of miles away can suddenly mess with something as basic as cooking dinner. But that's exactly what's going on in India right now. We're seeing a massive shortage of cooking gas, and it's hitting millions of homes. So let's get into it and figure out what's really happening here. So the big question is, why? Why is India all of a sudden facing this cooking gas shortage? I mean, this isn't some small inconvenience. It really gets to the heart of daily life for millions of people who rely on this stuff. And just to be clear, this isn't some localized problem. We're talking about a nationwide crisis. It doesn't matter if you're in a huge city or a tiny village, getting your hands on a cooking gas cylinder has suddenly become a real struggle for so many families. Now, the fuel we're talking about here is LPG, that's liquefied petroleum gas. And for a massive part of India's population, this isn't just a nice to have. It's literally how they cook their food. Every single day. So you can see why its availability is just absolutely critical. So where is this all coming from? Well, the root of the problem is actually thousands of miles away. It's the ongoing war in West Asia. A conflict like that sends these ripples, these tremors, all across the globe, both geopolitically and economically. And now India is feeling that impact directly, right in its LPG supply chain. Okay, so with this crisis brewing, the Indian government knew it had to act fast, and they did. They've stepped in and pretty decisively, issuing what some are calling a diktat, basically a firm, top-down order to get this whole situation under control, like right now. So let's break down what that actually means. The government's strategy is pretty straightforward, really. It's a three-step plan. First up, they've told the oil refineries to boost their production of LPG, just make more of it. Step two, and this is the big one, all that extra supply, it's been earmarked exclusively for domestic use, for homes. And third, they're setting up a special committee to figure out what to do about, well, everyone else who needs it. So you can really see the core of this plan, right? It's all about protecting the average person, the average family. The government is making a very clear choice here. Shield households from this supply shock, even if it means other sectors are going to have to take a back seat for a while. And what's so striking here is just how direct this mandate is. There's no gray area, no ambiguity. The government's message to the oil companies is crystal clear. Any extra LPG you produce must go to homes, period. That's a really powerful statement about where their priorities lie. And this really lays out the new pecking order perfectly. On one side, you've got domestic households. They are without a doubt the top priority. Then on the other side, you have everyone else. We're talking restaurants, cars that run on autogas, various industries. Their needs, they're now under review, which basically means no guarantees. Okay, but this raises a pretty obvious question, right? Anytime people hear the word shortage, what's the first instinct? Panic buying, hoarding. So how is the government going to stop that from happening and make sure the supply is distributed fairly? Well, their answer is a very specific and pretty strict rule. They've put a 25-day waiting period in place between booking one cylinder and the next. The whole idea is to stop people from stockpiling, grabbing more than they need. It's also meant to clamp down on the black market, where people might try to sell these cylinders for a huge profit. It's a simple idea, but it could be a really effective way to control things. All right, so if households are being prioritized, what about all the businesses that also need LPG to run? The restaurants, the factories. What happens to them? Well, that's where that new government committee we talked about earlier comes in. It's their job to basically manage this shortfall for the entire commercial sector. And this committee has a very specific task. First, they need to figure out exactly how much LPG these non-domestic sectors actually need. But listen to the wording here. It's very careful. Their goal is to try and provide some volumes to them. Some volumes. That language tells you everything. They're going to try to help, but a full, uninterrupted supply, that is definitely not a guarantee. So when you boil it all down, the key takeaway is this. The government is framing this whole strategy as a preventative measure. It's not just about reacting to a crisis. It's about getting ahead of it. They're trying to build a kind of firewall around everyday consumers to shield them from all the instability coming from these global events. It's all about prevention. And all of this leaves us with one last really big question. This policy makes a very clear choice. It puts people's kitchens ahead of commercial operations. So as the government works to shield its citizens from this crisis, you have to wonder, will it be India's restaurants, its drivers, and its industries that end up feeling the heat? It's a massive trade-off, and it's something we'll definitely need to watch.